Welcome back, my boys and girls. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Gamers Tek 16-bit HD. But more importantly, we're going to be seeing if the Super Game Boy can be played on this glorious Super Game Boy in HD. What? That's what I'm looking forward to. So this system recently came out, retails for around $50 or so. There are a handful of other cloned Super Nintendos that are coming out that are HD. You do have the Super Retron HD from Hyperkin, which should be coming out in a week or two. And then you have the Retro Bit Super Retro Trio HD Plus. I'm not 100% sure what that's called, but it does play Super Nintendo NES and Sega Genesis. So I'm really looking forward to trying that out with Sega Genesis anyway. Haven't had an HD Sega Genesis clone hardware system, so definitely want to peep that out. And then we also do have the Super NT coming out from Analog in February. That's going to retail for close to $200 with shipping, so that's kind of the high end. So I figured, while I'm waiting for all these other systems to come out, why not put the Gamers Tek through its paces? These are clone systems, so you have to understand you are not going to have 100% the same experience as you would on a real Super Nintendo. So, you might have some color differences, it's sound maybe. With the Gamers Tek, I have not really experienced much of anything that has distracted from my experience playing these games. They all look and sound legit to me. Some people are going to complain one way or another, but if you're going to complain about one little thing that you could notice that most of us won't notice, then this is not the product for you. I love Super Nintendo and it doesn't bother me in the least. So with this one, you do get AV out, but obviously it's an HD system, so you have HDMI. That's what we're going to be doing here. You do have a 4x3 and 16:9 aspect ratio switch. Pretty cool. I typically play Super Nintendo with a 4x3 aspect ratio because that's what the games were intended for. Some people will go 16:9, which is cool, but it does stretch the game out to the full screen on your widescreen HD TV. Some people prefer that, some people don't. You've got the option here, so that's pretty cool. The one thing you do not have with this version is that you don't have a PAL switch, so you can only play NTSC games, North American, Japanese, those kind of games. You cannot play PAL region games. All of these clone systems do have original Super Nintendo ports, so you can use your original controllers or the controllers that are provided with them. I use original Super Nintendo controllers just because I have them and I really like them. So that's where that's at. The Super Retron HD, when that comes out, it is going to have a PAL switch, by the way, so you can play PAL and NTSC. And the Super NT, you're going to have no issue with that as well. I'm not 100% with the Retro Bit. I'm going to have to look into that, but that's where we're at right now. I have no interest in playing PAL region games, so it doesn't bother me. So definitely looking forward to, playing with this system and getting the most out of it. It comes highly recommended for me. Like I said, it's not for everyone. If you're looking for a solution to play your games in HD, hey, this is where it's at. So the one thing with this, playing Super Game Boy games anyway, or Game Boy games, is that it was original intention was to play your original Game Boy games. No big deal. So these you could typically find them for around $15 or so. I got mine from GameStop, little markdown for like $13. Really good condition. I cleaned it up a bit, but it was already in good condition. So back to what we were saying, the Super Game Boy was meant to play original Game Boy games. Now, I'm sure you understand there was Game Boy Color games, Game Boy games, the dual Game Boy Color games, and Game Boy Advance, which is a whole other system. Now, this is going to play your original Game Boy games, no issue whatsoever. No issues at all. Now, there's other games that came in black cartridges or even sometimes special colors like Donkey Kong Land. These games were kind of dual, like they were Game Boy Color games, but they played on the original Game Boy. So these will play on the Super Game Boy as well. Some of them will have like cool extra bezels for the game, and it might have some of the game colorized, but it's not going to be the full Game Boy Color treatment to it. It mostly is going to be like the title menu and whatnot, but once you actually get into the game, it's not going to have the expanded colors. But rest assured they do work on the Super Game Boy, no issue whatsoever. And there are going to be original Game Boy games that are in gray shells. As an example, Killer Instinct, it'll have it noted on there, the same Super Game Boy compatible, something like that, and it will have expanded colors for the Super Game Boy, an extra bezel and stuff like that. Though with the Super Game Boy, like I said, Game Boy Color games will not play on the system. So if you're really hell-bent on playing Power Rangers Forces, this will not play on the Super Game Boy. It does fit, no problem, but they do not play. You do get a warning on the Super Game Boy saying it's not compatible or there's no cartridge in there, depending upon how they program the game. Some of them will pop something up and it'll say, hey, this game's not compatible, can only be played on the Game Boy Color. Some of them will say, hey, it doesn't work, whatever. The way you tell it's a Game Boy Color game is that it's typically in a clear shell, and that little bubble on the top will say Game Boy Color. It's very difficult to show that on camera, though, but those do not work. You can play them on your Game Boy Player on the GameCube. Any of these games, even Game Boy Advance on the Game Boy Player plays perfectly. You get the expanded colors, so that is an option. But for those of us wanting to play Game Boy games in HD very easily and cheaply, Gamers Tek HD, let's check it out. Let's see if these games play, if it is compatible with the Super Game Boy. So that's what we're doing. Let's go ahead and get this party started. Okay guys, so first up we got Donkey Kong Land plugged into the Super Game Boy. So it does have that little image on there that says it is a Super Game Boy compatible or enhanced game. So you do get the cool little bezel. You get a little bit of enhancement on the colors, but that's mainly just for the title screen. Once you actually get into the game, it's, just going to be fairly bland. Each level will have a different color palette, but it's just, the typical, several different shades of one color type of thing. But this is pretty neat, being able to play this on the TV in HD without, any weird blurriness or anything strange like that. So I am digging that this works. That is pretty cool. I didn't really have any doubt that it would, but I wasn't sure if it would, if there'd be any kind of glitches and stuff like that. Essentially because it's a Game Boy and a cartridge almost. I wasn't sure if these clone hardware systems would struggle with that. I thought maybe they would play, but they would, have some glitches or something. But this seems to be working just fine. So that's essentially an enhanced Game Boy game. Let's go ahead and pop in a normal Game Boy game. Okay, so here we go. The Super Game Boy logo pops up. We just put in Snow Brothers, which is not enhanced by any means, so you're stuck with the bezels that are included on the system, which is fine. If you hold L and R, you can go through and change, your color palette for the actual game, which is pretty neat. Sometimes you'll find one that looks a lot better than what the default is. So you can kind of go through there and find something that works for you. Get a little crazy with it. And then you can change the bezels. There's different bezels. You can draw one, I guess, or whatever. Pretty neat stuff. So that's typically, if you're using a game that's not enhanced, that's pretty much what you're going to deal with. You can change the controls, Type B and Type A. Type A is just going to be where you use the Y and the B button as A and B. And then Type B is going to be the actual B button and A button. So it just depends on your preference there. So let's go ahead and get into this game. This game is a little sluggish, but it was cool playing this on the Game Boy, especially being an awesome arcade game. Really dug it, and I love the Nintendo, the NES version of it. So that's pretty cool. Really wish there was an expanded color palette for this game, but that's alright. You see it works. I'm not seeing anything beyond how it normally would play. A little flickering, I guess, in a couple spots in the game. I'm not sure if that's how it looks on a normal Game Boy. Right now I only have a clone Game Boy Color. I do have a Game Boy Advance and a Game Boy Pocket that I'm getting pretty soon, so I'll be peeping that out. Might do a video on it, but there we go. This is a normal Game Boy game with no enhancements. Looking pretty legit. So let me go ahead and show you, what would happen if you put in a Game Boy Color game, for example. So here we go. We just put in Power Rangers Rescue. It typically boots up, and then it'll, you'll get something like this. Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue can only be played on Game Boy Color. So a lot of times you'll either get some kind of icon like that shows up and says it can't play, or it might just say, it won't even say the name. It might just say it's not compatible or the game doesn't work. So I'm definitely pleased to say yes, the Super Game Boy works on the Gamerz Tek 16-bit HD. I'm sure it will work on all these other clone systems that come out. None of these clone systems seem to have any issue with special chipset games. So yeah, it was kind of up in the air. Is the Super Game Boy going to work or not? Pretty sure it was, but still wanted to test it out and confirm. So it does work. I'm super happy that it does. Can't wait to play some of my games on there. I've got a few more games looking forward to playing, like Zelda DX I have right here. I just did not want to showcase it at the moment, and a few others. So that'll be definitely pretty cool. Might do some streams with the Super Game Boy. We'll definitely have to see. Love the Final Fantasies that were on the Game Boy, so that might be some games I go looking for. But with that said, guys, appreciate you stopping in. Smash that like button. Hit that notification bell. Thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you decide. Thumbs up makes me a little happier, but if you thumbs down, that's all right too. It's all good, man. So with that said, guys, I will catch y'all next time. Boom!